All right, we are going to do the next couple of sutras today, starting with number 10. And it goes, these 5 hindrances, when subtly known, can be overcome by an opposing mental attitude. And I think it's important that we go back and see what these 5 hindrances are. So we would be on 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So these hindrances are avidya, which we know is ignorance, or the condition of confusing the permanent, pure, blissful, and the self with that which is impure, impermanent, painful, and the not self. And then we have so ignorance is one of those hindrances, which meant most of this is. And then we have the sense of personality due to the identification of the knower with the instruments of knowledge. This seems like it would be 1. Desire is attachment to objects of pleasure. So when we got objects of pleasure as hindrances. Hate is aversion for any of these objects of the senses. So it's a bit of an opposite. And then we have intense desire for sentient existence, is attachment, which is inherent in form, self-perpetuating and known even to the very wise. So we'll say these 5 hindrances, when subtly known, yeah, I'm going to say that's those there. Unless I missed something here in the very previous one that talks about those, specifically those 5. Attachment, desire. I think we successfully figured out what that was. Otherwise, I feel pretty silly for going back through those others. There you go. Okay, there's not more attachments for attachment. I think that we're on it. I think we're over the target on that one. Okay, so these 5 hindrances, when subtly known, can be overcome by an opposing mental attitude. The words subtly known could be paraphrased as when realized by the inner man. And the thought back of the words has been well explained by Vedi. I'm sorry, I don't know that. And his comment as follows: having described the nature of distractions, the author points out the way to suppress them. They are divided into 2 kinds, subtle and gross. The first are those which exist in dormant conditions in the form of impressions, whereas the second are those that are concretely affecting the mind. The first can be completely suppressed only by gaining mastery over the whole of their support, or the thinking principle. This is the first work of the aspirant to yoga. He must realize the nature of the obstacles and then set in to overcome them, doing the work from the mental plane. He has to gain control of the apparatus of thought. Then he has to learn how to use that apparatus. And when this has been accomplished, he begins to offset the hindrances by countercurrents. The hindrances themselves are the result of wrong habits of thought and the misuse of the thinking principle. And I want to say, as we're reading this, as it sounds, is as we are beginning to control the mind, we are not going, I'm controlling the mind. and thinking about how we're controlling the mind. I don't believe that's what's happening here. As you learn to control it, that's what's happening. These countercurrents are already there as you're learning to control it. And because you're able to more control it, you're using the countercurrents. That's really the only way that you would be able to see that, I think, from where I sit right now. The hindrances themselves are the result of wrong habits of thought and the misuse of the thinking principle. When they are subtly known as the seeds which produce the obstacle-producing forms, then they can be exterminated in the latent stages by right habits of thought, right? Okay, that makes sense. And habits of thought resulting in the setting up of the liberty-producing means. Avidya must be supplanted by the true vidya or knowledge. And it is well known in this fourth race, on this fourth globe, and in this fourth round, the four vidyas and the four noble truths and the four basic elements form the sum total of his knowledge. The four vidyas of the Hindu philosophy might be enumerated as follows. Yajna, Vidya, the performance of religious rites in order to produce certain results. Ceremonial magic is concerned with sound, therefore with the akasha or the ether of space. The yajna is the invisible deity who pervades space. Mahavidya, the great magic knowledge, it has degenerated into tantrika worship, deals with the feminine aspect or the mother aspect, matter. The basis of black magic, true Maha Yoga, has to do with the form and its adaptation to spirit and its needs. True Maha Yoga has to do with the form, the second aspect, and its adaptation to spirit and its needs. The Guhya Vidya, the science of mantrams, the secret knowledge of mystic mantrams, the occult potency of sound of the word. Then we have Atman Vidya, or true spiritual wisdom. The four noble truths have been stated for us in the words of the Buddha in the following terms. Now the Exalted One thus addressed the brethren. Through not understanding, through not penetrating the four Aryan truths, brethren, we have run on and wandered round this long journey or rebirth, both you and I. What are those four? The Aryan truth of ill, the Aryan truth of the rising of ill, the Aryan truth, the ceasing of ill, the Aryan truth of the way leading to the ceasing of ill. But, brethren, when these four Aryan truths are understood and penetrated, then is uprooted the craving for existence, cut off is the thread that leadeth to rebirth, then is there no more coming to be. Thus spake the Exalted One. When the Happy One had thus spoken, the Master added this further. Blind to the fourfold Aryan truths of things and blind to see things as they really are, long was our journeying through diverse births. Gone is the cord of life when these are seen, no more becoming when ill's root is cut. The four elements have been stated for us in the following extract from the Secret Doctrine. The golden egg was surrounded by 7 natural elements, 4 ready, ether, fire, air, and water, 3 secret. Very interesting. Well, it's very interesting how the word ill is used here, and what it means to be ill in a sense, right? So it's just a little thing, but this is great stuff. And these 4 elements, three being secret, very interesting here. So we, if we read some of the some of DK's material, we know that we find out the secret of electricity at some point. I believe that's at or after the 3rd initiation. So it's, and I'm not claiming that there's a direct connection. It's just something that I'm pondering myself here. All right, then let's move on to number 11. Hopefully we got that right. Hopefully we got these 5 hindrances right by going back here. These are the objects of the senses, we hope. That's what I'm thinking. I'm rolling with it for now. If we made a mistake there, then make it known at some point. So 11, Sutra 11, their activities are to be done away with through the meditation process. The opposing mental attitude referred to in the previous sutra has distinct reference to the seeds or the latent tendencies as they subsist in the mental body and in the body of desire. This mental attitude has to become one of active mental meditation and one-pointed thought if the activities of the physical body are to be subjected to a like control. Much that we do is automatic and the result of long continued emotional and mental habits. Much of what we do is automatic and the result of long continued emotional and mental habits. Now this is just, it sticks right out at me right here, especially when I'm thinking astrologically. I think Pluto and Scorpio and some different energies that keep us like really Pluto keeping us like a broken record kind of until the transformational aspects come through there. Instinctively from ancient practice and through subjection to a world of tangible forms, our physical plane activities are governed by the 5 hindrances. These have to be suppressed, and the work of dealing with the latent seeds and with suppressing the external activities must proceed simultaneously. The steady opposition of the mental attitude deals with 1, meditation, which brings in the 3 factors of the thinker, the mind, and the physical brain will take care of the other. And this must not be forgotten, otherwise theory will not become intelligent practice. The meditation process is dealt with in Book 3 and need not be enlarged upon here. Okay, very good. So let's see here, the steady opposition of the mental attitude, sticking out right there. We talk about mantras and these other things. It's like positive affirmations. They do help. The steady opposition of that. There's 1. Meditation. Allowing ourselves to be quiet, and ultimately be accessible and be able to receive Three factors of the thinker, the mind, and the physical brain will take care of the other, and this must not be forgotten. Otherwise, theory will not become intelligent practice. All right, let's keep going here. Number 12, Sutra 12. Karma itself has its root in these 5 hindrances and must come to fruition in this life or in some later life. Interesting. Okay, just as long as man on the physical plane is subject to or governed by these hindrances, just so long will he initiate those activities which will produce inevitable effects, and just so long will he be tied to the wheel of rebirth and be condemned to form taking. All right, and why is this again? Just as long as man on the physical plane is subject to or governed by these hindrances, just so long will he initiate those activities which will produce inevitable effects. This is our fault. It's very simple. All right. And it's our doing. It's our doing and our undoing. And it becomes very clear to see these things. And then, eventually we do clear the path as it's cleared with us, and the path is cleared, and these hindrances will be removed when the timing is right, and there's help and other things going on when these processes are in motion. The student should carefully note that these 5 hindrances are the cause of all the activities of the lower personality or the lower man. Everything he does is based on one or other of them, and there is no action of the average man in the 3 worlds which is not the outcome of ignorance and its accompanying erroneous identifications and reactions. As the hindrances are overcome and ignorance, the field of them all is superseded by divine wisdom. There are fewer and fewer effects to work out on the physical plane, and the chains which link man to the great wheel of physical manifestation are severed one by one. These chains are triple, just as the field of ignorance is triple, being the 3 great planes of consciousness, which are the field of human evolution. These chains are triple, just as the field of ignorance is triple, being the 3 great planes of consciousness, which are the field of human evolution. And these are the 3 worlds: the mental, emotional, and physical, right? Or emotional or astral. So that's good to know. When the field of ignorance becomes the field of conscious experience, we become conscious down here, and when the chains are felt to be fetters and limitations, the would-be Chela has made a tremendous step forward in the liberating process. And I want to say this has been said by many of the saints, sages, and mystics, and those that we're familiar with. The first thing to do is identify that you're in prison. I want to say that's Ramana Maharshi says something along those lines. The first thing to do is know that you're in prison, and then now we have to work towards getting ourselves out of it. And Rumi says, break down the prison wall. Take an axe to the prison walls. And this process that we're talking about here is taking an axe to the prison walls. When he can carry the struggle inward into what, I don't know who that is, Ganganatha Ja calls to unmanifested life, Ganjang, Ganjan, Gan, I don't know how to say it. I'm going to leave it alone. Calls to unmanifested life when he can carry the struggle inward into the unmanifested life, in which we frequently call the subtler planes. He is entering the hall of learning and is severing those fetters which karma or desire and the wrong use of the mind have so subtly forged. Now, these fetters are, this is very, this is Buddhism. It really talks about these fetters a lot, and it talks through them. If you want to know more about the Buddhist enlightenment process, there's a video that I can refer you to. I don't have it right now, but it discusses the fetters and which fetters are released at each stage. There's 3 released at Sotapanna or stream entry, and then there's 3 more released as you continue along until you become a non-returner, or you don't have to come back anymore. So there's fetters that are dropped. So anyway, it's very Buddhist tradition, talk there. Severing those fetters which kama or desire. In this area here, this is kama, desire, emotional astral plane, and the wrong use of the mind have so subtly forged. And we're often called, the average aspirant is often called kama manasic here, kama manasic, which is emotional and lower, includes the emotional and lower mental. So this is where the average aspirant is working now in this range here. Right in there. This having been born again, and once getting to the astral permanent atom, this is the second initiation, which is, I want to say, also referred to as stream entry or the baptism. And then the next initiation taking place up here is the third initiation. And it's also referred to as basically the first, because it is the first major, ultimately the first major now. Later, he will enter the hall of wisdom and be taught certain esoteric and occult methods of hastening the liberating process. All right, well, let's do one more. Let's do number 13. So long as the roots or samskaras exist, their fruition will be birth, life, and experiences resulting in pleasure or pain. The predominant work of the occult student is the manipulation of force and the entering of that world wherein forces are actively set in motion, which result in phenomenal effects. Predominant work of the occult student is the manipulation of force and the entering of that world wherein forces are actively set in motion, which result in phenomenal effects. He has to study and comprehend practically and intelligently the working of the law of cause and effect, and he leaves off dealing with effects and centers his attention on their producing causes. In relation to himself, he comes to realize that the primary cause of the phenomena of his objective existence in the 3 worlds is the ego itself, and that the secondary causes are the aggregate of those fundamental egoic impulses which have led to the development of response to sense contacts on the three planes down here, the lower three worlds. These impulses have produced effects which, being under the law, must work out into objectivity on the physical plane. Therefore, there is much importance attached to the necessity for establishing direct egoic contact via the thread or sutratma, for only in this way can the aspirant ascertain the causes lying back of the present manifestations of his life, or begin to deal with the samskaras or seeds of his future activities. There's much importance to be attached. There's much importance attached to the necessity for establishing direct egoic contact via the thread or sutratma, for only in this way can the aspirant ascertain the causes lying back of the present manifestations of his life. These seeds are kama monastic, or partially emotional and partially mental in this area. For desire is potent in its effects and produces a physical vehicle in its two aspects. So we have this down here, and really this is where the spiritual triad is, where group consciousness and this is enlightenment really comes into play. Up here, down here, we're really still in the playpen, honestly. And once we get up here, we will know this is not something that we aren't. There's no question about this area up here. Anything higher than down here. So, all right, so in nature, for desire is potent, its effects, and produces the physical vehicle in its two aspects. Lower manas, or concrete mind, is the basic factor in the production of the etheric body. And this is these lower planes of the mental plane here. These are the lower mental. There's the ego, or the soul, sits at the third subplane, and these are the abstract or higher mental planes here, and these down here being the lower mental plane, these four. And then we have kama, or desire, is the prime factor in calling the dense physical being vehicle into being. Desire is the prime factor. So it's coming downwards, working downward here in a sense, and creating this. This lower mind is creeping, bringing in desire, and then bringing the physical, into existence. The two together are responsible for manifested existence. It is well known that the tree of life is depicted with the roots above and the flowering leaves downward. Well, I'm going to have to take a look now, because that's not how how I've seen these things depicted. In the tiny tree of life of the ego, the same symbolic presentation holds true. The roots are found on the mental plane, the flowering forth into objectivity and fruition is to be seen on the physical plane. Therefore, it is necessary for the aspirant to lay the axe to the root of the tree, or to deal with the thoughts and desires which produce the physical body. He must enter the subjective realm if he wants to deal with that which will continue to keep him on the wheel of rebirth. We have to deal on this. When the seeds are eradicated, fruition is not possible. When the root is separated from the externalities on any of the three planes, then the life energy no longer flows downward. The three words birth, life, and experience sum up the human existence, its object, method, and goal, and with them we need not deal. The whole subject of karma, or the law of cause and effect, is dealt with in this sutra and is of too vast a subject to be enlarged upon here. Suffice it to say, from the standpoint of the Yoga Sutras, karma is of three kinds. Latent karma, those seeds and causes which are yet undeveloped and inactive and must work out to fruition in some part of the present or subsequent lives. And is this the reason that we have retrogrades in our astrology chart? Active karma, those seeds or causes which are in process of fruition and for which the present life is intended to provide the needed soil for the flowering forth. And then we have new karma, or those seeds or causes which are being produced in this life and which must inevitably govern the circumstances of some future life. It's intense because we're going to stop creating this is what the goal here, right? We don't want to be creating any new situations that are going to cause us to have to deal on these things. So the beginner in this science of yoga can begin dealing with his active karma, interpreting each life event and every circumstance as providing conditions wherein he can work off a certain specified series of effects. He can endeavor so to watch his thoughts that new seeds are not sown so that no future karma can be brought to fruition in some later life. Seeds of latent karma are more difficult for the neophyte to work with. And it is here that his master can help him manipulating his circumstances and dealing with his surroundings in the three worlds in order that this type of karma may more quickly work out and be done with. And those are the seeds and causes which are yet undeveloped and inactive and must work out to fruition in some part of the present or subsequent lives. Wow, this is pretty great stuff here. So let's just keep going into number 14. These seeds or samskaras produce pleasure or pain according as their originating cause was good or evil. It might be noted that good is that which relates to the one principle, to the reality indwelling in all forms, to the spirit of man as it reveals itself through the soul, and to the Father as he manifests through the Son. Evil relates to the form, to the vehicle, and to matter, and really concerns the relation of the Son to his body of manifestation. If the Son of God, cosmic or human, is limited and imprisoned and blinded by his form, that is the power of evil over him. If he is aware of his own self, unfettered by forms, and freed from the thraldom of matter, that is the power of good. Complete freedom from matter causes bliss or pleasure, the joy of realization. Evil causes pain, for just insofar as the inner ruler is limited by his body of manifestation, just so far does he suffer. Wow. I think we're going to call it there because we're going to get into some bigger, it looks like into a bigger sutra there, and it kind of breaks off slightly. I mean, it's continuing on with this pain concept, and the gunas. There's a lot to, we absorbed a lot here, and we're gonna put that in our toolbox and see what comes about from this. We're working through these things, and as we talk through it, certainly that's helping. And as we learned earlier, spiritual reading is helping. So we're on the right track, and we're just going to continue. All right, so we'll leave it there for today, and I'll be back at it tomorrow. All right, have a good one.